Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Exodus 20, the 10 Commandments for today's DT. Just wanted to comment on the first three. I think each of these commandments you can kind of comment on and go in depth, like Bible study on, but just wanted to have a short comment about a few things. And so it starts off, and God spoke all these words saying, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. And it's like a foundation. This is actually not one of the commandments, but this is sort of the reminder of the foundation of all the commandments, that first of all, God is God. I am the Lord your God. And that's sort of the that's where we start. And in that case, I guess, God is God and we're not. And it seems like such an obvious point, but we forget that.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that means, since God is God and I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
that means we should obey God. That there's a kind of a brute force nature of this truth that is behind it. But he doesn't just stop there. He says, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery? So this God is the God who rescued you. So to remember our salvation, that moment in which we're saved, when we're rescued, and that obedience to God needs to be really driven by that remembrance, that about who God is and what he did. So those two things really need to be the foundation for all of our obedience. So that's
and it's relational. It's not just a brute fact or a brute force fact. It's a relational thing.
Yeah.
So the next commandment, the first and second commandments, you shall have no other gods before me, and you shall not make carved images, etc. These commandments deal with worshiping other gods. And you shall have no other gods before me. I guess that just follows from the fact that God is God. But making yourself carved images, it's interesting that it quickly moves on to carved images or physical things. So verse 3 is sort of abstract. Don't have any other gods before gods. But what would these other gods be? It boils down to physical things. And
many times it does, I guess. Yeah.
I think, most of the time it does. And it's pretty crazy when we think about it, that with our intellect, with our artistic creativity, what we choose to do with it is make objects and then get mesmerized by them ourselves. And then those become like houses, cars, physical things, become the thing that is the center of our desires and love, around which we are willing to center our whole lives around.
And serve. And really serve our life, give our lives, so that we can have those physical things imbue meaning and fulfillment,
sense
and
of security,
those kind of things into our lives.
So we get all anxious about whether or not we have those things. We get bent out of shape and angry when we don't have those things. And so, but when you think about it, it's just things that fallible human beings have made. And so I feel that as I read this, I felt like it was a loving thing for God to tell us, look, this is ridiculous. Don't bow down to mere creation.
Yeah. And then lastly, just wanted to comment on the third commandment: you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not. So it's this third commandment: take the name of the Lord your God in vain. And this is not just talking about swearing and using God's name in that swear, or Jesus's name in a swear word. That's bad in itself, of course, but it goes actually much more foundational and fundamental than that. This word here is actually, connotation is to carry or to bear or to handle, to carry with the hand and things like that. So it's really, we can talk about it in terms of bearing God's name in vain. And that, once you say it that way, do not bear God's name in vain, I think it hits us in a slightly different way, right? Don't bear the name of God, name of Christ. Where is that? When do we do that? Is, our identification as Christians. Don't bear that in vain. But also, I think the whole idea of handling and carrying, to use God's name in vain, it has that connotation. And man, we do that. It's not just a swear word, actually. It can be like, it's God's will for me that I blank. And whatever you fill that blank with, it just goes. Because you just said it's God's will. And it's sort of like this blank check that Christians oftentimes use to basically justify anything. And let's really be careful not that we don't do that. And I think I like the fact that our church teaching is that, hey, don't attach God's name onto your desire so easily. And we're very shy about, even from the leadership perspective, and even from the pulpit, we don't go, hey, you know what God told me? Like, no, we got to be very careful about that, because we can be in the danger of really, taking the Lord's name in vain. So those are our thoughts, and yeah, so that's it for
Okay.
today.
Have a nice day.
Have a nice day. Bye bye.